Juniper by Monica Furlong, Chapter 6. When Uni had gone, I spent a little while sitting glumly in her rocking chair, my sore ankle propped up in front of me. Now that I was alone, I examined the room in more detail. There were the ashes of the fire, and hanging above it the chain, which held a griddle and a kettle. There also hung a large piece of mutton, left to blacken in the peat smoke. That, and no doubt the tallow lamp made from mutton fat, gave the hut an unpleasant smell. Beside the fire was a basket of peats, a little brush for cleaning the hearth, the lamp on a shelf, and a small stool. In addition to the rocking chair, the skin rug, and the bed, the room contained a rickety table and an upright chair, a rather dirty woven rug, a bowl and jug, some cups and plates on a simple dresser, a hand mill with meal spilling out of the top, and a jug with some milk. In a corner stood a wood pile with some sticks lying on top and a tinder box on the floor beside it. There were dried plants hanging from the ceiling and the remains of the pig's carcass. Uni owned nothing, it occurred to me, that was not absolutely necessary to keep her warm or fed, and I thought with wonder of the way she had refused my father's offer of money and possessions. The books, musical instruments, goblets, jewels, and the fine clothes to which I had been accustomed at home seemed unimaginable here. What was I to do with myself all day? Uni had gone and might not be back till the morrow, and there was I, all alone with nothing at all to do, and only able to walk with difficulty. As so often since the day out with Gamal, I tried to talk to Moon, but he did not stir from his daytime sleep. I had never before lit a fire or attempted to cook, but because I was cold and would soon be hungry again, I thought I had better learn how. I thought it might be easier to light a fire of wood than of peat. I placed some big pieces of wood in the hearth and set some moss on top of them. Then I struck at the flint. Even when the sparks fell on the dry moss, the little fire seeds gradually faded. I tried time after time, feeling more and more irritated. After a bit, it occurred to me that the twigs might light more easily than the wood. This time, I transferred the moss to the twigs. The twigs sizzled a little, and I thought that maybe the fire would light, but still I did not succeed. I sat back on the rocking chair and looked despairingly at the cold hearth. Other people could light fires. Why was I so stupid? Then I remembered seeing servants at home sweeping up the ashes and carrying them away. Without much hope of it making a difference, I took down my pyramid of wood, cleared away the ashes with a shovel that lay beside the hearth, relaid the fire, and repeated the procedure with the tinder box. This time, to my delight, the twigs flared up, making a generous blaze, and soon the logs were aflame. I felt very proud of myself. There was still some soup left in the cauldron, and although it was only mid-morning, I heated it up and ate it with some black bread that I had found on the dresser. I noticed the same odd taste that I had noted the night before. I later discovered that Uni had a way of throwing whatever food she had into her soup. Not just bread and cheese, but meat or even offal, together with any herbs that came to hand. It did not always taste nice, but I would have to devise another soup for our evening meal. My hunger appeased, I went out to look at the pig and the chickens Uni kept. The pig was a huge black beast that lived in a sty behind the hut. Its grunts and snufflings had disturbed me more than once during the night. The chicken's white feathers looked dirty and bedraggled, but I was glad to notice that several eggs were already lying inside the hen house, and I carefully collected them. I saw that Uni was growing some beans and flax and some beer corn. There were 2 stunted apple trees with a few apples left on the boughs. Time hung very heavily on my hands for the rest of that day. I talked a bit to Moon, hoping as always that he would reply or even give me some advice, but he merely blinked and went back to sleep. Limping painfully, I drew some water from Uni's well, washed out the smock I had worn the day before, and hung it over the chair to dry. I washed my hair, too, and let it dry in the bright, warm, noontime sunshine. I carefully arranged blocks of peat on the fire and loved the smell as the fire reached them. Mindful of the charge to make some soup, I managed to persuade a little more meat from the pig's carcass and added some water and herbs and a little meal, but it was a poor, thin broth. When darkness fell, I ate the soup with a couple of the eggs and the rest of the black bread and some milk, reluctantly saving what was left of the milk for the next morning. Before going to bed, I built up the fire as much as possible, and wrapping myself once more in the strange-smelling animal skin, I lay down before the hearth. The fire threw alarming shadows onto the walls of the hut. The silence outside felt ominous to me. Except for the occasional scream of a rabbit caught by a stoat or a fox, I could hear nothing at all, but I imagined outlaws surrounding the hut, preparing to break into it. Because of my fears and the discomfort of the floor, I slept very badly. The shifting and sighing of the fire disturbed me. There was a growing feeling of cold as the night drew on. I don't like this at all, I thought. No matter how much power I get out of it, nor how important it is to be a Doran. I'd rather marry the son of a neighboring prince, or even the son of one of the knights, as all the other girls do. That would be much better than spending my life cold and hungry in a place like this. As soon as Uni returns, I will tell her, and then when my ankle is better, I will go back home. Feeling that I had settled something, I arranged the skin and sank into a sound sleep. I was woken several hours later by Uni lifting the latch and entering the hut.